You're listening to the Quint's podcast.
Assured of another 5 years in office, French President Emmanuel Macron made history on 25th April by beating his far-right rival Marine Le Pen. This was the second straight fight between the two politicians and Le Pen's third shot at the presidency. But there's something deeply unsettling about these results, which is how close Le Pen, a long-time standard-bearer for the French far-right, got in terms of vote share with Macron. Le Pen scored better than she ever has, winning about 41% of the vote. The last time that she ran in 2017, she earned about 34%. What is also striking about these results is the abstention rate of the election, which at 28% is a slight increase from its level in 2017, but also the highest for a final round vote since 1969. So the nature of these results beg the big question to be asked. If these voting trends continue, is France walking on a dangerous path towards electing a far-right president in the next election? To break down the election results and their significance, we speak to senior journalist and columnist Namrata Sarkar. You're tuned in to The Big Story, the podcast where we dissect the headline-making news for you, and I'm your host, Himmat. Before we dive into the significance of the French election, it's important to understand how the French conduct elections because it is different from how it works in other countries like India or the US. Now, to elect a new president, French voters head to the polls twice. In the first vote, the candidates, which in this election were 12, run against each other. They qualify for the race by securing endorsements from about 500 mayors and or local councillors from across the country. If none of the candidates win more than 50% of the vote, the top two candidates head to a runoff. What was interesting in the 2022 elections first round is that it seemed like there was a three-pole race and not the traditional two. Emmanuel Macron won 27.8%, Marine Le Pen 23.2%, and Jean-Luc Mélenchon won 22% of the vote. The final battle was eventually fought between Macron and Le Pen, with the former winning the runoff with about 58% of the vote share. Now, Macron being re-elected is a big deal given that it is the first time a sitting French president has won an election in 20 years. However, the results, according to many political analysts, are more a reflection of voter rejection for Le Pen than voter enthusiasm for Macron. Namrata Sarkar, senior journalist based in London, weighs in on Macron's first 5 years as president and how he has not been able to shake off the perception of being a quote-unquote elitist and quote-unquote out of touch with the ground reality.
You see, what has happened with Macron when he came in 2017, he came with this whole view of radicalizing French politics. But that wasn't what was happening. He being from the financial world, his closeness to all the top elite of France has caused a lot of problem because, French citizens are very vocal about their choices. And if you notice, and it's not been an easy ride, there's been widespread protests all around the country for the last 5 years. And it's been led by huge groups of people who have felt that he doesn't represent their interests. I mean, you can call it his dynamic or sometimes domineering style, which is actually seen by the voter as being arrogant. And that has further aggravated those who opposed him, including at times the rioters, Gilets jaunes, which is the yellow vest protest. And in the last 5 years, every time I've gone to Paris, I've noticed the rise in the number of protests. And this election, I think, is a chance for Macron to course correct. And I think he now recognizes the anger people have against him. And he knows that the vote was more against Marine Le Pen than for him. He acknowledged that, when he said in his acceptance speech, which was rather somber, and he came up alone and spoke, he said, I know that a number of French people have voted for me, not to support my ideas, but to stop the ideas of the far right. And he called on his supporters to be kind and respectful to the others because he noted this, that the country was riven, and I quote, by so much doubt, so much division, and said, I'm not a candidate of one camp anymore, but the president of all of us. And during the final 2 weeks of the campaigning, you have to see Macron tried very hard to shake off what he, of course, feels it's unjustly a persistent tag of being an aloof president of the rich kind of a person. So he promised to kind of dedicate the next 5 years to restore France to full employment. And he argued that his policies, like loosening the French labor laws, had already succeeded, and that he definitely wanted to put the country's decades of mass unemployment to rest. And he also promised his own swift package of laws to address the cost of living crisis, which I think has plagued the entire Europe and UK. And he tempered his frame for kind of raising the retirement age also. But again, in the final days, he focused less on his own manifesto and actually went about talking more on stopping what he called, in quotes, unthinkable. That's the far right anti-immigration Le Pen taking charge of France, which is obviously the second biggest economy and nuclear power in the Eurozone.
Now, troubles for Macron do not end with the results of the presidential elections. The French also hold separate elections for their parliament, which is due later this year in June. And judging from the vote share Le Pen garnered this election, it won't be an easy fight. In her concession speech, which did not include the traditional congratulations to the winner, she said that the 41% share of the vote represented a quote-unquote victory in itself, and that she would continue the political fight against Macron. She said, and I quote, that, quote-unquote, I will continue my commitment to France and the French. It's not over. According to the Madhya Sarkar, Macron, a centrist, may have to possibly ally with the right-wing parties to have a chance of winning the parliamentary elections.
Yes, this is going to be a huge battle right after winning the presidency, because don't forget, in this election, the number of the 7.7 million first-round voters for the radical left's Jean-Luc, who actually narrowly missed reaching the final. He said that people felt torn over abstaining or voting to keep out Le Pen. Like we were talking, it was more about keeping out Le Pen. And Macron had leaned to the left in the final days, if you notice, to try and court Jean-Luc, his voters, and promising to speed up measures against climate breakdown, which was very important for the left, and expand the environmental policy. So his first task is also going to be to appoint a prime minister who he said he would be specifically devoted to addressing the climate crisis. Okay, till now that wasn't the case. And the focus will now actually be on the June elections, where I think Macron will seek a majority for his centrist grouping, but possibly he'll need to expand alliances with the right. He had promised, in quotes, a big new political movement. And so that could go as far as maybe rebranding his party. I don't know. Both Le Pen and Jean-Luc are actually looking how to increase the number of people from their parties to be put into the assembly. So without a majority, any French president's room to maneuver is going to be significantly reduced. And if the first round voting pattern does not repeat itself in the parliamentary poll, Macron will need outside support. So will doubtless be like coming from the moderate wing of Les Republicans. But the point is, if Macron doesn't win this June elections properly, the country, France, would be in a state of paralysis. So the game is not quite over as yet.
But let's get back to Marie Le Pen, because she's the main reason you should be invested in the coming elections. Now, the Le Pen name carries a lot of baggage. Her father, Jean-Marie Le Pen, founded the National Front, a far-right party which is known for its controversial stands on immigration, skepticism of the European Union, and position on Islam in France. And Marie Le Pen, who overtook the party from her father in 2011, has been attempting to rebrand the party and soften her image. But by and large, her stance on most issues has not changed. For example, she has stopped talking about abandoning the euro or exiting the European Union, but she has still insisted on ending the European Union law, which requires all EU citizens to be treated equally. Or even her stance on immigration or Islam, which has not changed, where she still wants to make it illegal for women to wear headscarves in public in France. But this softening of rhetoric has shown results for Le Pen, given that she only stood 4.6 percentage points behind Macron in the first round. Nabanita Sarkar adds that much of Le Pen's votes come from the young voters and socially secure blue-collar workers, signaling a big shift in the vote banks for the far-right party.
Marine Le Pen, when she conceded defeat, she still said that it is our victory because she kind of said that the national rally, that's her party, represented new heights because of the vote share increase. But again, her far-right rival, Eric Zemmour, he pointed out that she's ultimately failed because she has failed this is the third time and she's failed. And he said that just like her father who preceded her, in quotes, he said, it's the eighth time the Le Pen name has been hit by defeat. So Marine Le Pen, she took over the party founded by her father, Jean-Marie Le Pen, in 2011 and in a bid to make it electable. She won more than 13 million votes on Sunday on a platform of tax cuts, which she moved away from in the last weeks. That's why her vote share increased, because she moved away from immigration and her anti-Europe integration stance. So she went on a platform of tax cuts to tackle the high cost of living. A ban on wearing the Muslim headscarf became very quiet at the end. She did not go too much into it. So she was talking more of the inflation and those kind of common person's problems. But as I said earlier, that Mr. Macron has accepted that, and he said in so many words that an answer must be found to the anger and disagreements that led many of our compatriots to vote for the extreme right. It will be my responsibility and of those that are around me. He said all that, and that is fine. I hope he takes this seriously, because if you look at the polls for the second round, and much of Le Pen's support comes not from that group of nostalgic pensioners who still think of the 50s, but the younger voters, especially young women. I mean, typically in the age group of 18 to 34-year-old, they work in skilled, semi-skilled or unskilled jobs in the new working class, like in sales and services, where they found themselves on the wrong side of globalization, automation, immigration, and a new cost of living crisis. So this is not just the only shift. Even ever since the 90s, Le Pen's dynasty has been most popular amongst blue-collar male workers. And recently, it has appealed far more to socially secure workers on the lower middle incomes, who were squeezed between liberal professionals and unemployed. Much like, what happened in the UK, the skilled and semi-skilled workers who abandoned the Labour Party and went for Boris Johnson, for the Conservatives. But Le Pen's future is a bit of a question mark. I mean, she might find great difficulty nonetheless in surviving the next 5 years. And as the main leader of the French far right, because she and her party will be faced with a renewed challenge from Eric Zemmour and her own niece, Marion Maréchal. So there's going to be, that is also to watch out for. And don't forget, her 3 defeats are going to sting her now, however close she may have been. Yeah, I can see her. I mean, I can see different faces now coming up on the right. What the French left does is another matter to be seen.
Now, other than a shift in vote banks, what is also worrisome is the number of people who have refused to vote in this election. More than 12% of voters cast a blank or invalid ballot compared to 2.2% for the first round. The abstention rate was also significantly higher in the final vote, standing at 28%, a few points up than that of the 2017 election round, which stood at 25.4%. And this means that Macron won the election with the support of only 38% of the total registered voters, a sharp decrease compared to the 43.6% in 2017. And these statistics bring up the big question. Is France walking on a dangerous path towards electing a far-right president in the next elections? Nabanita Sarkar weighs in.
See, there is undoubtedly, these results make one thing clear, that the French society is very divided right now. I mean, more than 1 in 3 voters did not vote for either candidate, which is very surprising for a politically aware country like France. And the turnout was just under 72%, which is the lowest in a presidential runoff since 1969. And more than 3 million people cast spoiled or blank votes, which is a huge surprise. And I think Macron has realized that. Okay, there is the point that much of France was on holiday on the day of the vote. But the low turnout is actually reflecting on the apathy of voters who've complained that neither candidate represented them. And that's been the problem. There was nobody that actually represented a huge chunk of voters. Voters said that they were casting blank ballots because they wanted to punish the president. That was the sitting president, Macron. And I think in his speech, Macron said that his government would have to answer that choice to refuse to choose. And again, Jean-Luc also said that he was scathing about both the candidates, I mean, the far left leader. He said that while it was good news that France had, refused to place its trust in Marine Le Pen, he said that about Macron, he said that he's been elected with a worse result than any other president. And in quotes, he said, and I quote, he floats in an ocean of abstention and blank and spoiled ballots. So Macron's challenge now will be to reach the absteners, the youth, and those who voted for Le Pen, because he does need to soften his approach. His charge against him of arrogance and being an elite president, he has to really work hard at doing away with that tag.
What is clear from the final vote of the presidential elections is that the far right have obtained a voice which has never before seen in France, and that the country's political landscape, which has traditionally worked for a two-party system, has radically changed. The parliamentary elections are set for mid-June, and for more updates on this story, head over to the Quint's website. If you liked listening to this episode, please subscribe to The Big Story for episodic updates. We're available on Apple, Google Podcasts, Spotify, JioSaavn, and most of the other popular podcast streaming platforms. For other podcasts, please log on to the Quint website, and for any feedback, please shoot an email to podcast@thequint.com.
Thanks for listening. Log on to the Quint's website and check out our other podcasts.